For making my entitled sister-in-law cry when she claimed my house is family property? My name is Rachel. I am 34 years old, and I am an ordinary woman who relaxes by digging her hands into the dirt. Ever since I was a little girl, I was drawn to plants while other girls played with dolls. I would walk around my mom's yard digging holes, looking for a place to plant whatever fell into my hands. Sometimes I did not even know what it was, but I planted it anyway. My parents thought it was just a phase, but that was not the case at all. I never grew out of it. When I turned 18, I already knew exactly what I wanted to study. I went to college to study landscape design and horticulture with a focus on landscaping. My family did not love the idea. They asked me over and over if I would not rather be a teacher or a nurse like other girls said. I listened to them, but I did not budge. It was that or nothing. I loved everything, even the hardest subjects like soil decomposition, pests, and plant diseases. There were classes that left my head spinning, but I always came out happy. After graduating, I worked for a few years for landscaping companies. I learned a lot, but I also got frustrated. The bosses were good people, yes, but they did not have the same passion. They were always rushing, planting cheap plants, and cutting corners wherever they could. They would say to just leave it like that because nobody would notice. Inside, my blood was boiling. At 25, I took the leap. I said enough. With all my savings, I started my own company. It scared me. I will not deny it. I did not know if anyone was going to hire me, especially being young and a woman in an environment where almost everyone was an older man and they already knew each other. But I thought of something very simple. If I do not try, I will always wonder what could have been. The first year was incredibly hard. Sometimes I barely made enough for gas and the basics. I did everything: finding clients, sending quotes, doing the bookkeeping, buying materials, carrying, pruning, and planting. I came home with my hands full of cuts and calluses. I woke up at 5 in the morning and came back when it was already dark. 7 days a week. There were nights when I cried alone in silence, asking myself if I had gotten into a huge mess, but little by little things started to change. The first clients were happy and recommended me. In this business, recommendations are what build you up. I was not the cheapest option, but I did good work, and above all, I listened. I did not show up to impose what was convenient for me. I asked, proposed, and adjusted. People noticed that. By the time I was 28, the business was stable enough to hire someone part-time and have a small office. I started to breathe. For the first time in my adult life, I felt grounded. I also started getting steady maintenance contracts for houses and small apartment complexes, and occasionally large projects in plazas and commercial spaces. That gave me a constant cash flow, and I finally decided to look for a house. I had been renting a tiny apartment for years since I got out of college, and I was sick of it. I wanted my own space and my own garden where I could test ideas without anyone rushing me. I spent months looking. Everything decent was extremely expensive. Prices in the metropolitan area were crazy, and I was just one person with a still young company until I found it. A small house on the south side of the city, almost on the outskirts. It had a good-sized yard. The house needed love, yes, but you could tell it was well built. And the garden, even though it was a disaster, had huge potential. The previous owners had let it go to ruin. Weeds everywhere, dry bushes, the grass looked like pure patches of dirt. It would make anyone sad. I, on the other hand, saw what I could do. The mortgage payment was going to be tight, but I did the math and figured that if I kept growing with work, I could pull it off. I put in an offer, spent 3 days with my stomach in knots waiting for an answer, and then they called to tell me it had been accepted. I jumped around in my little apartment like a little girl. Moving day was one of the happiest days of my life. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with a kitchen that had not been updated since who knows when, but it was mine. Well, mine in the banks for a while, but it was a start. From day one, I threw myself fully into the yard. I used every free moment to clean, pull weeds, arrange, and plant. I designed little paths, seating areas, and an herb corner near the kitchen window. I worked all day with clients, and at night I worked on my own garden until I could no longer see properly. And the transformation was amazing. In 2 years, that sad piece of dirt turned into something beautiful. I made sections, a space for vegetables, another for flowers that would bloom in different seasons, so there would always be color. I put in an aromatic area and even took a chance on a small pond with fish. One day I was looking at a gardening magazine, and saw they had a small garden design contest. On an impulse, I took photos of mine and sent them in. Truthfully, I did not think I had a chance. I thought designs with huge budgets and whole teams would win. 3 months later they called me, and I let out a scream from the bottom of my soul. I had won first place in that category. They wanted to publish my garden and interview me about how I had designed it. I was in shock. My little garden, the one I had built with my own hands, was going to be in a magazine that people all over the country would see. Even then, I did not lose sight of my goal: getting rid of the mortgage as fast as possible. Every extra dollar that came in went directly to the principal. I did not go on vacations, I did not buy clothes unless it was necessary. I drove the same beat-up pickup truck from college. My friends told me I was exaggerating, that I was already doing well, and asked why I lived so tightly, but I had a plan. I pushed through heavy weeks, took on everything I could without burning myself out, and every extra dollar went to the loan. Let me clarify something so it is understood. I have been living tightly for almost 9 years since I started the company, and about 6 years hitting the house loan hard. It was not magic. It was discipline and stubbornness. There were moments when it felt heavy, like I was missing out on life. I saw my friends going out, traveling, buying things, and there I was eating simple dinners and mending work pants. Every time I felt discouraged, I went out to the garden. I walked among the plants, saw what I had achieved, and my heart settled. That was my dream, my future, my peace of mind. Now at 34, I finally made it. The house is completely mine. I owe the bank nothing anymore. There is no lighter feeling than that. And I wanted to celebrate it with my family. My older brother, Jason, is 37. He has been married to Melissa for 10 years and they have 2 kids, Tyler, who is 11, and Dylan, who is 7. They lived squeezed in a rented apartment and were always struggling with money. I had been helping them, mostly for the kids. It was not like I solved their whole life, but I did cover part of their rent, and when they got stuck, I chipped in so they would not be afraid of getting evicted. That had been going on for about 3 years, and on my few days off, it was common for Tyler and Dylan to stay at my house. They loved playing in the garden, although sometimes they were more trouble than help. Melissa would drop them off, and almost without taking a breath, she would start with her comments. "How nice to have so much space," she would say, looking at my living room. "The kids desperately need a yard like this to run around." I would smile and change the subject, but those phrases stayed with me like little pebbles in my shoe. A week after making the final mortgage payment, I bought an expensive chocolate cake and a bottle of wine to take to my parents' house. That Saturday afternoon was perfect because they usually invited Jason and his family over to eat, so I could break the news to everyone at once. When I arrived, Tyler and Dylan were already playing video games on the television. I excitedly placed the cake and the wine on the table. My mom looked at me and asked, "What is with the craving?" I said, "I have a surprise for everyone." My mom raised her hand as if to say, "Wait, we eat first." We sat down, and right in the middle of the meal, Melissa did not stop complaining about her landlord, about how he had raised their rent, about how the apartment was a tiny box, about how they no longer fit. My parents nodded with pitying faces. Jason ate quietly. As soon as I could, I asked for their attention. "Well, I have news for you. I finished paying off my mortgage. The house is completely mine." The table fell silent. The beeps from the video game could be heard in the living room, but at the table nobody said anything for a few very long seconds. My mom was the first. "Oh, well, that is great, honey." She said it flatly, as if out of obligation. Jason barely made a sound and kept eating. Melissa's face changed about 10 times in 5 seconds. First surprise, then something that looked like anger, then a fake smile, and then anger again. "Well, congratulations," she finally said. But you could tell she was boiling inside. Then she finished it off. "But honestly, it does not seem fair to me. You do not have a husband or kids like us." I froze and she kept going. "You were able to buy a house and here we are renting with the kids. You got lucky." I took a deep breath so I would not explode. "Not luck. I worked like crazy to build my business, to buy that house and to pay it off. I spent years sacrificing everything." Melissa threw her fork on the table with a sharp thud. "You are family, Rachel. That means your house belongs to the family. Jason and I can claim that house." I was left with my mouth open. It was a twisted, shameless logic. What are you talking about? It is my property. No one has anything to do with my house. But Melissa did not let it go. She started crying out of nowhere and turned to Jason as if he were a judge. Your sister is being really selfish. We have to think about the kids. Tyler and Dylan deserve to grow up in a house with a yard, not locked up in an apartment. Jason, to my horror, nodded. She has a point, Rachel. I turned to look at my parents. I really thought they were going to restore order, that they were going to say, that is enough. But my dad spoke first. Melissa is right, honey. They need the house more than you do. My mom joined in too. Think about the children. A laugh of disbelief escaped me. And what about me? Where am I supposed to live? Melissa, without any shame, said, well, you go to an apartment. You can do it. We will move into your house. Jason chimed in. You are doing well, Rachel. You make good money. You will buy another one in no time. And then the worst part happened. Jason, Melissa, and my parents started talking among themselves as if I were not there. Planning, dividing. That room will be for Tyler, Jason was saying. I am finally going to have a decent kitchen, Melissa said, getting excited. And the garden that Rachel made. The kids would be so happy, my mom added. I listened to them and felt like the ground was being ripped out from under me. They were dividing my house up as if I no longer existed, as if they were handing out my belongings right in my face. I could not take it anymore. I slammed my hand on the table so hard the plates rattled. I am not giving my house to anyone, I said, standing up. The chair scraped against the floor. It is my property, my work, my sacrifice. It has nothing to do with you. They all looked at me as if I was the one overreacting, as if I was the one failing for not handing over my house. I grabbed my purse and the bottle of wine I had brought. I cannot believe you guys. My dad, looking serious, told me, Rachel, sit down. We are looking out for what is best for the family. What is best for the family, I repeated. And what about what is best for me? What about the fact that I broke my back all these years? Melissa kept the tears coming, but you could tell she was acting now. Think of Tyler and Dylan. They are your nephews. I have spent 3 years thinking about them, I answered, no longer holding back. 3 years helping you with rent. I headed for the door, and even then I could hear them behind me as if nothing had happened. My mom said, she will get over it. She just needs time. Melissa, now without a single tear, let it slip. The house would be perfect for us. I walked out and slammed the door. In the car, my hands were shaking with anger. It was my family, my own family, and they had just tried to take my house from me as if it were community property. The drive back felt like a blur. I kept replaying the conversation in my head. At what point did everything fall apart? How do my parents think this is normal? How can Jason nod along while his wife demands what is mine? As soon as I arrived, my phone started buzzing non-stop. Calls after calls. I did not answer any. Then the messages poured in. My mom. Rachel, you are being very selfish. Family comes first. Call me. My dad. Your mother is very upset. You need to apologize and do the right thing. Jason. Stop acting like this. We need to talk calmly. Melissa. I cannot believe you are putting your whims above your nephew's needs. What a shame. I deleted everything without replying. I thought that in a few days they would cool down, that they would realize how ridiculous it was. I was wrong. For 2 weeks, the calls and messages continued, each one worse than the last. The funny thing is that for the first time in years, I had a peaceful weekend. Melissa did not bring Tyler and Dylan over like always. And even though it hurt to think about the kids, I was relieved. I could finally be in my house without worrying about them tracking in mud, about something getting broken, about someone saying, how pretty. What a shame it is not for the kids. That peace did not last. One Tuesday afternoon, I was in the office reviewing quotes for upcoming jobs when my assistant knocked on the door. Rachel, your mom is here. She says she wants to see you. The air left my lungs. I knew she was not going to give up easily. Send her in, I said. Even though inside I wanted to say no. My mom walked in with her sweetest smile, the one she uses when she wants something. She sat across from me, settled her hands on her purse as if it were a normal visit. I am here to talk about the house thing, she said. I feel like you are making very rushed decisions. Rushed? I replied. Mom, it is my house. I bought it, I paid for it, I live there. There is nothing to decide. My mom shifted in her seat. But think about Jason and Melissa. They really need it. You are doing so well with your company. And she pointed at my office as if that were proof enough. Just look at this. You could buy another house. I looked at her as if I did not recognize her. Do you know what this cost me? Years with no vacations. Driving the same truck. Living tightly just to put everything toward the mortgage. Yes, sweetie, she said with fake patience. But you are in a better position than they are. They have kids. And what about me? My voice cracked a little. What about what I want, and the fact that I love my house and my garden? My mom put on that stubborn face I remembered from when I was a little girl. Rachel, you are being selfish. Family helps family. You should be generous because things have gone well for you. They used that word selfish like it was a punch, as if wanting to keep what had cost me my adult life made me a bad person. I stood up. Mom, I need you to leave. I walked over to my office door. And I say this with all due respect, but I am ashamed that you are taking sides like this. That is playing favorites. My mom stood up, red with anger. You are making a mistake, young lady. This family will not forget how you behaved. Good, I answered. Let us see if that way you leave me in peace. She stomped her heels down the hallway, furious. A week later, relatives I barely spoke to started calling me. My Aunt Patricia, who lives in another state, my cousin Kevin, who I had not seen in years, even my great-uncle Harold, who I had only seen at weddings and funerals. Rachel, your mom called me. My Aunt Patricia told me. She is worried. She says you are not treating your brother well. I took a breath and asked her directly. Did she tell you they want me to give them my house? There was a silence. Well, she said they need more space because of the kids. Would you give your house to someone? I asked her. Another longer silence. No, well, it is different. Different how? I insisted. She did not know what to say. Nobody did. My cousin Kevin got annoyed and hung up on me when I asked him the same question. My great-uncle Harold muttered that he had to hang up and said goodbye. Right then I understood perfectly what my mom was doing. She was talking to half the world to sell the story that I was cruel and selfish. She wanted to turn the family against me. The manipulation was shameless. 2 more weeks went by. Suddenly the calls died down. I thought they finally gave up. I started to feel normal again. I focused on work, enjoyed my house, my silence, and then came Saturday morning. Loud voices and the sound of a truck woke me up. At first I thought a neighbor was moving, but the voices were getting closer. I put on a robe and went outside. When I saw what was happening, I was stunned. There was a moving truck parked in my driveway, blocking half the entrance. 2 men were unloading furniture and boxes, and right there in my yard, acting like she owned the place, was Melissa pointing and giving orders. That couch goes in the living room, she was saying. And be careful with those boxes. The kids' toys are in there. Jason was there too with Tyler and Dylan. The kids looked confused, even scared, but Jason stood there with his arms crossed, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. I went straight toward Melissa. My heart was pounding in my throat. What is going on? Melissa turned around with a fake face, all innocent. Oh, Rachel, well, we are moving in. I hope it does not bother you that we started early. Moving in, I said, not believing it. Are you serious? Jason came over with his calm tone. Rachel, do not make a scene. We already talked about this. Let us bring our things inside and then we can sort out the details. We did not talk about anything. I cut him off. I said no. This is my house. Melissa took a step forward with that look of someone who thinks they have already won. We already gave up our apartment. We have nowhere to go. And she called the kids over as if they were part of the trick. Tyler, Dylan, come here. The kids walked over looking uncomfortable. Melissa raised her voice theatrically so the movers and the neighbors could hear if necessary. Rachel, you are not going to leave your nephews out on the street, are you? She looked at me with a little confident smile, as if she had backed me into a corner, but she was wrong. I turned to the movers and spoke clearly, loudly, without yelling at them. Excuse me, gentlemen. You are on private property and you do not have my permission. You trespassed. If you do not leave, I am calling 911. The two men froze. One looked at Jason. Hey, you said this was your sister's house and that she was okay with it. Jason rushed in. Yes, she is okay with it. Rachel, stop exaggerating. I am not okay with it, I said firmly. This is my house and you have no right to be here. The head mover looked at me and asked for direct confirmation. You are the owner and you do not authorize our entry? That is correct, I replied. They looked at each other. You could tell they had seen disputes like this before. Without making a fuss, they started loading the things back up. No, wait, yelled Melissa. Do not listen to her. We are paying you. But they were not getting involved. Within minutes they were already loading everything back into the truck. Melissa lost it. She started calling me selfish and heartless. Jason tried to grab my arm. Rachel, be reasonable. We are your family. I pulled away. Get off my property right now. Melissa went to my front door and started banging on it hard, screaming that it was unfair, asking how I could do that. Neighbors were already peeking out. I took out my phone. I am dialing 911. You have 30 seconds to leave. That finally sank in. Jason pulled Melissa away from the door. They put the kids in the car and left. Melissa was still yelling from the window, throwing phrases at me to make me feel guilty. Half an hour later, my parents called me. I did not answer. They left voicemails, but I deleted them without listening. That night, I got a message from Jason. You owe us money for a new apartment. Because of you, we have nowhere to live. I laughed. I really did. I laughed alone in my living room and replied, from today on, I am never helping you with anything again. Fix your own life. More messages came through, but I deleted them without reading. A couple of peaceful weeks went by. I was deep into a large landscaping project for a new mall in the metropolitan area. I came home one afternoon and felt my heart stop. My garden, the one I had built up for years, had been seriously damaged. Plants were uprooted, flowers were ruined, paths were broken. It was as if someone had come in and deliberately wrecked everything. My eyes burned. I did not cry out of pride, but my lips were trembling. I suspected who it had been, but I needed proof. I ran inside and turned on my computer. Years ago, when there were break-ins in the neighborhood, I installed security cameras all around. Nobody in my family knew. I opened the recordings from that day and there they were. Jason and Melissa, clear as day, came in and caused the damage to my garden as punishment. It was clearly intentional. I saved the video on my phone and went straight to my parents' house. I took off without thinking, even though it was rush hour and the city traffic was slow. I did not announce myself. I walked in. They were all there, my parents, Jason, Melissa, and the kids. My mom looked at me surprised. Rachel, what are you doing here? Melissa was trying to hide a smile. She was enjoying the look on my face, my fury. I took a breath and spoke calmly, which scared them more than if I had yelled. Someone seriously damaged my garden today. Melissa shrugged with fake pity. Oh, how awful. There are a lot of bad people out there lately. Yes, I told her, staring right at her. That is why I am going to file a report with the police, especially since I caught it all on video. I took out my phone and played the video. On the screen it was perfect. Their faces, their hands, the way they ripped and destroyed. All the color drained from Jason's face. Melissa stood completely still. My parents sat with wide eyes, speechless. I paused the video and said, I am pressing charges for the vandalism and I am also suing for damages. And I am going to post this video on social media so everyone can see who you really are. My mom stood up in a panic. Rachel, please do not do that. Do not destroy the family. I looked at her with a calmness that surprised even me. Do not do what? Do not seek justice for what they did to me? Do not tell the truth. Jason swallowed hard. Rachel, we can fix this. Do not bring the police into it. We are going to fix it like this, I told him. Just in plants, dirt, labor, and rebuilding the paths, it is going to run me around $3,000. You have 1 week to pay me $3,000. If you do not, I will file the report and upload the video. Melissa opened her mouth in indignation. $3,000. We do not have that kind of money. Then find it, I replied. You had enough to move out of your apartment and pay for movers. Figure it out. I turned around and walked out without arguing further. Exactly 7 days later, a bank transfer from Jason for $3,000 hit my account. It came with a message: "We never want to see you again." I let out a dry laugh, as if I had been begging to see them. A couple of months have passed since all of that. With that money I fixed my garden, I redid it, and it turned out even prettier than before. My business is going strong, I have good clients, and I finally have peace. Through mutual friends, I found out that Jason and his family ended up moving in with my parents. 6 people in a 3-bedroom house. Word is they are all in a bad mood, complaining about being cramped, about the expenses, about not having enough to go around. My parents are stressed out by the extra financial burden. And Melissa pushes everyone to their limits with her demands. And honestly, it is not my problem anymore. Sometimes in the afternoon, I sit in my garden. When the sun goes down, I hear the birds, the distant hum of the city, and I look at my plants as if they were proof of life. I think about how different things could have been if my family had been happy for me, if they had celebrated my hard work instead of trying to snatch it away from me. But then the feeling passes. Because the truth is this: I would rather be at peace in my house with my garden than surrounded by people who only see me as an easy way out. Here at least everything that blooms was planted by me, and no one will ever trample it again. Comment. I've been thinking about this story a lot lately, and it reminds me how important it is to protect your own peace. I truly believe that setting healthy boundaries with family is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. When you value the life you've worked so hard to build, you naturally teach others to respect you too. Taking responsibility for your happiness might feel lonely at first, but it opens the door to real healing. True kindness starts with being kind to yourself first. I hope you take a quiet moment to ask yourself what boundaries you need in your own life right now. Choosing calm over constant conflict is one of the bravest things you can do. It's okay to step back and create space for the peace you deserve. At the end of the day, surrounding yourself with people who celebrate your growth makes all the difference. I'm cheering for you as you keep building a life that feels like home to your heart. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.